check. Now you're allowed to play through it. Okay? It doesn't mean you can go into it as in like bringing your stick into their head, but you can go over through their head, around their head, and check it out of their stick now. All right? So I know we don't exactly have a stick, but anytime you always saw these little ones right here.
And then you see the rep do this.
Right.
You're not going to see that in college.
Exactly. So dangerous checks is anything that goes anything towards the head or into the body. Okay, so just think about it that way. If you're trying to make a clean check, you're not trying to drag your stick into the body or the offensive player's stick into their body or head. All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so that's the easiest ground level one that you guys will understand when you first start playing. So now we're going to get into the basic rule changes of last year, and that is now kind of transpiring in high school. So we're going to start off with the basic is self-start. So self-start means that now the offensive player is allowed to basically go whenever she feels like it before the whistle is blown to set up a play or to set up the foul in the midfield. So anytime we had a foul in the midfield, so say I just push Bill, okay?
I would blow my whistle.
Exactly. So then we're going to tell them 4 away or 4 behind, 4 away, and now then we'll set it up and we'll restart it. So in college now, what's going to happen is I blow or I push Bill. Bill's going to call a foul.
Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to blow my whistle and point a direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because the person's usually going to stop before I do anything else.
Exactly. So you're allowed to take off. You don't have to wait for a whistle when we're in the midfield, okay? When we're in the
Does the
midfield.
defender have to go 4 behind?
Everybody just has to move 2 away now. So there's no 4 away, 4 behind when we're talking the midfield. So the midfield is anywhere between the top of the 12, basically. I'll just give you an easy visual, between either tops of the 12s. Does that make sense? Do you have if you can show a diagram, I mean, that'd be easier too. They got a marker over there too. We can draw one too. We'll draw it for a little bit more clarity and whatnot. Just draw a whole field and make it easy. So you can self-start in any of the midfield basically, but everybody moves 2 away. Has anybody even gone through a ref course? So when I start using like lingo or anything, okay, so do we understand what the CSA is? The critical scoring area?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know what the critical scoring area is. So it basically, the critical scoring area is the 12, so this is his awesome rainbow 12. So by definition, the critical scoring area is the 12, and it has an imaginary line that goes through the dots all the way to the end line, okay? So it's about 10 yards from where the goal line is to the end line. That's the minimum amount that it's allowed to be. Yeah, look, man, I should have drew this. Man, this looks like a basketball court, man. Look at it. That's the paint and that's the 3-point line. All right, so we got the goal line right here. So the 12 all the way until you hit the end line is where the CSA is. That is when we will stop the clock as officials. Okay, so anytime, if you think about it this way, you can only self-start when the possession clock is running. That makes it just the simplest fact. Because the clock can run because it might be a 10-goal differential. Don't worry about that. Anytime the possession clock is running, you can self-start. We'll always stop the possession clock if we're inside the critical scoring area, whether that's coming into it, so if you're on offense attacking, or if it's coming out in your defense and you guys have the possession and now you're coming out of it. So,
because once it's in there, the official, the first thing he's doing is to blow your whistle, and you're going to say us do this to stop the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we do this, that means you have to wait for a whistle.
exactly. So that's the easiest thing to tell you guys. We also have officials on the field that will tell you, this is a self-start scenario, or wait for my whistle is basically what we're really going to say in college. Wait for my whistle, or on my whistle. So if you hear those key words, that's when you want to not be able to self-start. Because if you have a card, we call a timeout on the field. Offsides, alternate possession, anything inside the
Card.
CSA. I already said card, but then I think that's it. There's either 5 or 6 of them all together. So those are just some of the few things that you need to understand with the self-start. So now we're going to talk about free movement. So that's the base layer. Now the big layer is free movement. So now free movement means literally exactly what it says, free movement. You're allowed to move wherever you want. You do not have to stop anymore on the whistle if you're not with the ball. Okay, does that make sense? So if I blow the whistle and you're the defender, it doesn't matter, just keep running.
Unless you're inside the critical scoring area. Because he calls a foul on you, that's the only time you go 4 behind.
Right. Or at the 12, the critical scoring at 8 or 12. So either way, that's the only time you'll have to go behind in those
But everybody
scenarios,
else just runs.
basically. So you're allowed to move the entire time. So when we set up free position, so a free position is anytime you're shooting on the 8 meter. If we're doing that, you can move the entire time. All right, now if I didn't have such a horrible drawing, I'd help you out. But so when we're talking about free movement and setting up a free position, so the defenders automatically get the inside, the closest hashes to where the shooter is.
So if the offense gets this one, both defenders get these inside.
They're entitled to
They're
that.
entitled to it. So you guys run and go get it, and the other player has to move.
Exactly. So it's not like how you had last year where, okay, you were set up like right here in front of the goal and we would move you out wide. It would be you run wherever the heck you want at that point. You're just not allowed to be in two areas. You're not allowed to be in the box and you're not allowed to be in the 8. Those are the only two spots you can be. The box is pretty simple. I might just draw another one. Good Lord. I've done this once or twice. There's that, there's this. Hey, I was not an artist, but I'm a basketball coach. It's about the same thing. Here we go. All right. So, that right there is the 8 and 12. This right here is what we're going to call the box. So, anytime we set up a free position, this is the box. It's go. I forgot to put the dots. So, let me do this. Put the dots here. So that's the goal line extended hash. Goal line extended hash is right there. So the box goes just like that, through the dots, all the way through, and all the way up. So when we set up free positions, you're not allowed to set up in here, unless you're the goalie, you're allowed to be in the goal circle, of course. And you're not allowed to set up in the 8. So those are the two no-nos when we set up free positions. We will move you out through those areas, but we're not going to tell you where to go. We're just going to guide you on where not to be, because we're not allowed to coach you. So if we say, here, go here, it technically is like coaching you. So what we're going to say is you're not allowed to be in the 8, not allowed to be in the box. We'll guide you to say move up a little bit higher to get out of the box if that's where you want to stay. But that's as much information as we're allowed to give you. Let's see.
And the only time it's different is when the offensive player has this hash here. Then
Then
you're not allowed to be in here.
Right.
Then you have to be here or over here. Okay. So if the offensive player here, the two defenders go here, but nobody's allowed in this section here, you have to be over here.
Are we going
Only
too
that
fast?
first hash.
Are we going too fast for you? You ask questions, please. Ask us questions. That's why we're here. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So, are you saying that that's like an instance where there wouldn't be free movement, like if the ball was in that area?
Every time it's free movement. There's no self-starting at this point.
So if you're in that area, there's no self-start.
Correct, exactly. Because you got to remember, we're trying to promote safety here, and if you just take off and launch a shot and nobody's aware of it, then that's where it's going to be a problem. So anytime we're inside the 12 and in that CSA movement, so if we're going to say this is the end line right here, all right, if that's the end line right there, this is the CSA. So we're always going to have a whistle start on that. It's never self-start.
So on the free, someone can go below the box, like.
Down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can be there for the chase.
Yes, exactly. So you can line up all the way to the end line if you want to. Just make sure you're on the field.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
So basically, if the other
I know it sounds stupid.
if somebody's shooting, you want one of your players down here
Yeah.
in case the shot misses and you'll get possession.
Exactly. I had a hand up somewhere.
So-
Go ahead and have another one. Go ahead. No, it was you. It was you.
Yeah, you're right.
So, if the whistle's blown and there's a shot, the green is where you can't be at that point? You have to clear
Before
it?
the whistle is blown, yes, before the whistle is blown. So you know how you used to set up an 8 meter and it would just be, you're not allowed to be in the 8. Now imagine it's the 8 and then now you're not allowed to be in this box
So if you're in there,
either.
you just clear out of both spaces and then you keep going.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
But there's not gonna be a box drawn on the field.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Right.
just have to know there's an imaginary line. You gotta place yourself out. If you place yourself in there, technically it's a turnover.
Exactly. So what we're going to do as an official, so the lead official is the person that's closest to the goal, basically, who's going to call the goal. You want to pay attention to that person. I'm 6'4", 6'5". I'm a big person. It's easy to find me on the field. So we're gonna step in real big, like right into the middle of the field, right in the middle, right here, setting it up, and we're gonna have our hand up real big. So if you're the shooter, this is when you're not allowed to shoot. Don't even self-start, nothing. Just stay. Okay. Everybody else will move. Once I drop my hand and everybody's kind of what we call set, meaning you're out of the box, out of the 8. We'll drop our hand. We'll start backing out. We'll get to where we need to be as the official. I'll put my hand back up and I'll blow the whistle. If I drop my hand when I'm backing out and somebody runs through the box or runs through the 8, then it's a false start on you, whether that be offensively or defensively. All right? Does that make sense? A little bit? All right.
Yeah, so because once he starts backing out, everybody on this line here has to stay. They don't want no movement to whoever's,
Right. You don't want to come into where the shooter is. So if we have a shooter right here, say we're set up on second hash, So, and you're the defender and you're like, oh, dang, I really want to be on this hash and I've already backed out as the lead official and you ran this way, it would be a false start. If you wanted to get to that hash, you'd have to run all the way up around the 12 and get there that way. You just have to imagine you have to be 4 meters away at that point from the shooter. So you're still allowed to move all out here, just don't come inside that.
Yeah, so it's just these people here, everybody else could still move.
Does that make sense? So free movement is pretty simple. Like I said, you just move anytime. So anytime we have a timeout, anything like that, you can keep running. We give a card, you can keep running around, you can set up your offense, set up your defense, whatever it may be. Just don't stand anymore because it moves a lot quicker now. And that's why we're trying to help you guys out with this because it's a real shell shock when you first see it. We did our first game and we did a D1, we did Kennesaw State playing each other. And we were so lost in our first game reffing it because it was just, I mean, back and forth. We didn't even know what the heck to call half the time. It was weird. So other than that though, it's very fast paced, but it makes the game a lot easier for you. All right. So what else?
So basically if you get fouled, like if you're in the middle of the field, basically what you have to do is just like hesitate, that's it, and then just keep running. So if you hear a whistle and you know it's against the other player, just keep running.
Okay. That's a good one.
Wait, so if you get fouled when you're like in the middle of the field, do you even have to stop or like?
It's supposed to be just a hesitation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Just a
basically if you get fouled, just keep running.
Yeah. So like if you're getting like pushed from behind real quick and you hear the whistle blow, you kind of just stop real quick and then you're allowed to go. It's a very quick movement. You can't just keep running. Like if I push you and I'm still in my running motion, that's not really a hesitation. You need to just a quick stop and go. So now we're going to go into something a little bit more complicated when it comes to those fouls. So say you get fouled and you lose the ball, as in like you drop the ball, you get pushed on the ground, the ball's rolling 10 feet away or 10 yards away from you. The only thing that you have to do is you have to come pick up the ball, or a player can pick it up and throw it back to you. You just have to start within what we deem as a 5-yard radius of where that foul occurred. So it's still a self-start scenario, but the ball's away from where it was. Or say you got pushed on a pass and the pass went 30 yards. Same thing, you'd have to come all the way back to where the spot of the ball was, that little 5-yard area, and we'll judge that. So if you self-start in that area when you're not technically in that 5 yards, we're supposed to bring you back and then you can restart play again. That's not a false start because you're not inside, because you don't know.
Another thing too, if the ball goes out of bounds, you just pick up the ball and go back about where it came out of bounds, just run back on and run.
That was going to be my next thing we were talking about, yeah. So out of bounds, pretty simple. And that's anytime. That's below the goal line extended. So that's anywhere it goes out of bounds. So the whole rectangle of the field. Just go out, pick it up. If it's your ball, pick it up and just run on the field about where the ball went out.
It's not
We'll
just
judge it.
end line balls anymore, there's sideline balls now too. So when we set up for game day, we also have to put balls on the sidelines. Okay, that's why our field is narrower than the rugby lines. Did you guys notice that today?
Yeah.
Because we have to have that 4 meters of give to defense, but we also need room, so it has to be 4 meters from like the score table. That's why our lines are pulled in.
Exactly.
So if the ball goes out, we just can run and we don't have to wait for a whistle?
Nope. The point of all these new rules is basically we're trying to give the least amount of whistles as possible unless it's a foul scenario. We don't want to restart play every time with a whistle, so you're going to hear a lot less.
Can you play it in from out of bounds?
So that's a good question. So it's what happens is this is not like
That's a good
basketball.
question, because they changed that rule 3 times.
Exactly, and I still don't like the way they interpret
No.
it, but either way. So say you come from out of bounds and you decide to pass it before you come inbounds. So you're playing it like basketball or soccer where you're coming from out of bounds and you just throw it from out of bounds. Technically, you're not allowed to start it from out of bounds. So short answer is we'll give the ball back to you, put you back in, and then you can self-start. So it's not a foul, but I wouldn't be surprised if it changes halfway through the year.
Because last year in the beginning of the year, it was a change of possession. And then they changed it at the end of the year, but we don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the only thing. So just make sure you run all the way onto the field, whether that be one step on, it doesn't matter. Just don't pass it from out of bounds.
So what happens if you get fouled in the midfield and you foul in the midfield, you're the defender and you don't move 2 meters away, but she self-starts beforehand?
Okay, so if she self-starts beforehand, it doesn't matter. Because we just have to make you move 2 meters real quick. If the offense decides, or if the attacker who has the ball decides to take off before those 2 meters is given, that's up to the attacker. The only thing is that the defender cannot engage, so what we call the engagement zone, is 2 meters, so about 6.5 feet basically, away. The defender can't come in. So say Bill has the ball and he's the self-start. This is about 6.5 feet. So if he doesn't move and I engage him first as the defender, then it's a foul on me. All right, so then you just move back 2 meters again because we're not going 4 behind, remember? So I just move back 2 meters again and then he's allowed to self-start again. Does that make sense? So you'll have that, well actually no, you can't
That's a
self-start
whistle.
because it's just timeout. I
That's a
lied to you.
whistle.
So we're calling timeout because
Because it's gonna be an engagement foul. We're gonna do this, and then we blow. We got
That's
one
right.
engagement foul on
my
on
player.
green team, whatever.
So you get one warning. So you get the warning, so we go tweet tweet, engagement warning, that's their first. And then the second time it happens, but it doesn't matter who it is on that team, if it's it doesn't matter because it's a team foul basically at that point. Tweet tweet, engagement foul, and then you have a green card. So you never really saw one in high school. A green card now is a 1-minute penalty. All right, anytime you see a green card. So that's one instance of when a green card will
It's a
come out.
releasable penalty. So if
Yes.
the other team scored, you would come back out.
Exactly. So there's that. The other time you'll see a green card is if you have 3 fouls before you get into your attacking zone, or into that attacking zone. So say we pick up the ball here, or I'll just make it a O. So say she comes this way, she gets fouled right here. All right, she decides to self-start, she comes here, gets fouled again right here. All right, so now you have 2 fouls before you get to your attacking zone. So your attacking zone would be, or this restraining line right here. All right, because we're going this way to attack at this goal. So say I get all the way over here, and then wham, I get a big push, whatever it may be. So that's the 3rd foul. So we're calling timeout, and then you'll see us give a green card
Does it
again.
have to be the same player that makes
No.
all
It
3
does not have to
fouls?
be the same player, it's the team again.
The team,
The
3
team.
fouls
Mhm.
on the ball.
So is the person who does the third foul, are they the one who has to go out
Correct.
for another?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it have to be the same ball carrier?
No,
No.
it can be anybody on the offensive team has the ball.
3
So
fouls in the midfield, guys. You cannot foul 3 times.
So basically, what you're gonna see us officials do, like,
Yeah.
I'll blow one here, and I'm gonna do a foul and do this, and I'm gonna put my one finger down. Some people do it different.
Yeah.
That's why I keep track. It's not a foul, I'm gonna put 2, and you usually hear the coaches go, "That's 2, leave him alone." You know?
Yeah, get it set up on defense. No fouls is what we'll hear. So if that happens, we're calling timeout. We pull the green card, and then that player goes off for a minute. The thing is, if you think about a green card, it doesn't count against you. So yellow cards and red cards are the only 2 things that count against you as a player. Okay, so if you get a yellow card, you get 2, and then you have to sit out for the game. Red card, you get 1, you sit out for the rest of the game. You sit out the next game as well.
Do you still have to hold 4 back when you have a player in the box?
Yes, always hold 4 back. So that rule doesn't
So
change.
you are man up. If we get fouled 3 times in the midfield and the ref pulls out a green card, you're in a man up situation and you get to just take it into your attacking zone.
Yes, ma'am.
And then it's like over once it's past that restriction.
Exactly. So even if I move across here, once I move across here, it's over. It doesn't matter if I move back here at that point. Once I move across, it basically has to change possession twice in this area for it to reset. So once we see that possession is gained, so say you foul here and you're on your 3rd foul, and then she drops it before she gets here real quick, you guys pick up possession, you guys drop it real quick, she picks it back up, and then you foul her again and restarts again. So you have a whole new 3 fouls at that point, because we're talking about possession in between here. It's gotta be the same possession, basically. I saw a hand up over
I
there.
think you did that.
Okay.
Do you cover what, were you just talking about the possession?
Yeah, so that's what I was about to get into was possession clock. So possession clock, you're gonna see 3 signals, potentially 4. Yeah, well, there's 4 signals basically when it comes to a possession clock. So possession clock, the first thing is you'll see this, just like you saw in high school. You saw that meant release off the
The
end
draw.
lines, the
When
draw.
we do the draw, you can have the 2 and a 1, and we'll just do this. We won't say release, we're just gonna do this.
Right.
And then everybody else can come in.
Exactly. So in college, the only thing is that's different is this means that the possession clock has started. So you have 90 seconds of possession before you have to either get a shot off and hit the goalie, hit the pipe. That's the only time it's going to reset. So if you see this big signal right here, that means reset the possession clock. All right, so we got wind it means start it. This means reset. This means stop both the game clock and the possession clock. And then if we're in a running clock scenario and we have a foul that's inside the CSA, we'll do this. So the pat on the head means the possession clock's going to stop. All right?
So you as players need to know that. Offense and defense. Okay, you have to know when to pressure.
So, and most of the time, when we do the big X, or I should say most of the time we do the big X, it's not always gonna have a whistle on it. So anytime you saw a big timeout signal, it was usually tweet, tweet, tweet for either a timeout, card, whatever it may be. So this time, so we're gonna call a foul inside the CSA, we just put the X up real quick, the clock stops, and that's it. Just remember that you can't self-start in that scenario because the clock is stopped. All right? Same thing with this. You can't self-start if the possession clock is stopped. All right, let's see what else we have that's different.
And that runs the whole game, not even, the last 2 minutes it doesn't stop either. The whole game is just like that.
Right. So the whole game is basically, you can self-start the entire game because it doesn't stop in the last 2 minutes.
So what happens if the possession clock runs out and you're on defense?
So you're saying you have played good defense for 90 seconds, the possession clock winds out. Okay. So it depends on where the ball is on the field. If the ball's inside the CSA, the ball's basically going to be dropped. We're calling timeout to stop the clock if it's a stop clock scenario. So if it's not a running clock, it's less than 10 goals. We will set you up at that point coming out. So if you're the defense becoming the new offense, we'll pick the player that's closest to the ball. We'll set you up close to where we need to set you up. So if you're below, we'll set you up at one of the dots. If you're above, we'll put you at one of the 8 meters, or we'll put you at the 12 if you're outside the 8, but inside the 12. Does
Is
that
that
make
a
sense?
self-start?
No, because we stopped the clock.
Anything outside the 12 will be a self-start.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just think real quick before I answer those 2 questions. So if it's outside of the 12 and it's out here, so what a lot of people do is when the possession clocks go winding out, they say throw it in the corner. So what they'll do is they'll literally throw the ball into the corner and let it roll out, and then the possession clock's
Oglethorpe
gonna
does
run
this
out.
and we are going to play them, so listen.
So
Oglethorpe does this.
yeah, a lot of teams do it. So they'll throw it in the corner, or so when they get to 5 or 3, I don't remember what the magic number is, but they'll just throw it and they'll throw it in the corner and let the possession clock wind out. It doesn't matter, it's a turnover anyway for them, so they just want to get you into the corner so they can set up an easy trap. That is a self-start scenario because it's way outside the 12, it's outside the CSA. All right, I had 2 over here, so let me get this one real quick.
How's it determined who gets the ball?
Anybody. So that's a good question. So anytime you see an out of bounds, it's the team so if it's a shot, it's the team that's closest to the ball now. So you guys would wear white at home, of course, most likely not lime green. Hey, I've seen all of it. But we'll say white. We won't say white 12 or white 15. We'll just say white. So if you're the closest player to the ball, she can go run good and go get it as well. If they chose, it doesn't matter. So if the goalie's the closest player to the ball, like say she went off to go get it at the end line, another defender can go pick it up. She doesn't have to be the one to go pick it up. It's anybody on your team can pick up the ball. It's just got to be in relative position.
What about if you call a timeout while ball is in play? Can you sub, and who has to go out and if you're in possession of the ball, and who has to be the ball carrier after the timeout?
Okay, so that's a lot. It's a lot because there's multiple steps to it. It depends on where the ball is on the field. So if we have the ball on the field and there's no foul.
Yeah, there's no fouls in the middle of the field.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Any player just drops the ball. You don't have to drop your sticks anymore. Just drop the ball. Everybody can sub. You can sub in that scenario because remember, you don't have a set spot you're going back to.
Do you have to go through the box, and does it have to be recorded?
You do not have to go through the box at that point because it's a timeout.
Yeah, it's a timeout.
At that point. So now if we're talking, we have a foul, you want a timeout at the foul?
If it's
That's in the
inside,
building?
it has to be inside
That's
the
right.
12.
It has to be inside the CSA. So if it's inside the CSA, whoever has the ball has to shoot or has to have possession of the ball. And then that player has to go behind whoever the person is.
Yeah,
that's
those 2 are the only 2 that can't come off.
All right, those are the only 2 that can't come off in that scenario. Now let's go ahead and go back to
So
your
if the
question.
goalie stops the ball, does possession clock start then or when they make a clear?
So what's going to happen is if it hits you as the goalie, we're going to say reset. If it stays inside the goal circle, we're going to already wind the clock saying, okay, so you have possession, because once it's in the goal circle, it's in your possession. Whether it's in your stick or not, you're still going to get the 10-second count. You're still going to get the reset of the possession. So, good question. The possession clock starts when basically it hits you and we determine that you have possession inside your goal circle. So if you tip it, it hits the pipe, whatever. If it bounces out of the goal circle, you'll see people fumbling around with it. The shot clock or the possession clock's technically not allowed to start until somebody gains possession of it.
When does the possession clock start? If it's a turnover, so you were just playing defense, you played 90 seconds good D outside the CSA, you get the ball back, and you said it was a self-start. So is it as you guys are setting it up?
It'd be outside the CSA at that point. So if it's outside the CSA, you would wait for her to self-start at that
And
point for
then
the
start
clock.
the 90
But
seconds.
you'll always see us wind it. But if it's one inside the CSA, just start it on the whistle.
Because usually once you got the ball on your stick, we're gonna do this.
Right.
Because you're self-start.
You're ready to go at that point. So that's another one. Okay, and then the other major change.
The major change, who's the goalies here? Okay, there's a lot of changes for goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first of all, you could block a shot outside the goal circle.
You're not in shooting space.
You're not in shooting space anymore.
You never
In high school,
are. You are
you were
never in shooting space as a goalie.
So you can come outside the goal circle and somebody can shoot on you, you're not in shooting space.
I wouldn't recommend diving at the
Yeah.
ball every time, but
Another thing too, like if Mike, the player's coming down, he blows a shooting space call, if you block it and you keep it in your circle or
Or
if
you
you
call
stick, you could start play without waiting for a whistle.
Okay.
Before, we used to have to set up a foul situation, but if the goalie makes a save now and it stays in the circle, it's your ball.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. I mean,
It's tough for us too.
It trips us
Because we're
up.
blowing a whistle.
Exactly. So it trips us up. We can set it up and restart it for you. We don't have to necessarily. You can self-start. They say the goalie can self-start in that
Yeah.
scenario if it's a really quick one. That's okay. But some of the times we'll set it up
Yeah.
and we'll start a play if you don't recognize it as the player or as the goalie. Let's see what else was there. The other one that I was going to say was if you used to think if you ever went through a class, major and minor fouls is what you heard a lot about. So, oh, it's a minor foul, move four away. Oh, it's a major foul, move four behind. So there's no such thing as a major or minor foul. Everything is basically a foul, is what there is. Everything's a foul. So if you cover the ball in the middle of the 8, or we'll say the middle of the 8, girl gets a free position right at the 8. And then you go behind, and then we'll clear the box in the 8. So even as simple as an empty stick check, a cover, all the basic ones that you're like, it doesn't hurt us so much because we used to get it on the 12, doesn't happen anymore. If you're inside the 8 and those things happen, it's going to be an 8-meter free position no matter what.
And the same thing too, if the goalie covers, and if you cover, you have to go behind.
Yeah. So it's, I wouldn't always recommend that. But, so there's that. And then set up basically, if there's a foul in between the 8 and 12, so say you get pushed in between the 8 and 12 and you lose the ball, you would go to the 12 now. So there's no starting inside in between the 8 and 12 on a restart play. We don't clear the lane. We just put you at the 12 and then we'll whistle restart it.
So if you're put on the 12 as a whistle restart, do not think you're outside the CSA just because you're on the 12.
Because most officials will say it's on my whistle, but sometimes we don't have a chance. And if you move, it's your fault.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to say it's on a whistle.
And that's a turnover. If you full stop. So don't do that.
Yeah, there are a couple, when it comes to high school, there's no major changes as in it's been the same rules as per last year. The only thing that's different is that you can basically substitute any time. So you don't have to wait for a card. There used to be, so if you were subbing in and out right here, you used to have to wait for a minute to sub on. You couldn't sub in during a timeout
But now you can.
on the field. So like if we had a timeout for a shot going in for the CSA, you couldn't sub in those areas, or at that time, but now you can sub any time during play.
But the only thing, like, we don't know what they're gonna do yet, but if there's a goal, you have to drop your stick on a goal. I forgot to tell them.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, they've never played college at all, so they also
Okay.
don't know about
Yeah, so
municipal
if you
or
score,
anything like that.
you have to drop your stick immediately, whoever scores, and then we're gonna check your stick, and then we'll give it back to you. But we check everybody's stick
You
after
cannot
the goal.
touch your strings before you drop your stick. You score, you drop it. Do not even look at your pocket.
Because usually, like, the girls score, they just throw it down right away,
Yeah,
and we'll check it. But usually, like if she wants a sub, we suggest wait until your player comes off before you come on, because we don't know how that's gonna set up yet.
After a goal.
After a
we're talking
goal,
about.
because we might check your stick, and if it's illegal, you might have too many men on the field then.
Yeah, you might have too many players on the field at that point, and then we'll just We don't know. We won't
We
have
don't know
any,
that yet.
we won't have any clarification until later on that specific part, but once we get that, I'll.
It's okay, we don't usually sub goal scorers.
No, it's not just the goal, no, it's not the goal score.
It's anybody.
It's anybody who scores, so like, just like in high school, so if somebody scored, you were allowed to run on the field because we didn't have to check sticks or anything.
Yeah.
So now, since we're checking sticks, we're trying to figure out if whoever scores, you're not allowed to run. We don't want you to run on the field yet, because say we have an illegal stick at that point.
You might have 14 players on
You might have 14, 15 players on the field at the same time. So, we don't know how the flow of
That's
that.
what we should just suggest, wait till your player comes off before you come on, that's it.
On goals, for sure. But let's see.
Releasables
I think that's
too.
it. So releasable penalties, so the only time it is releasable is when the other team scores. So if you have a card, whether that be a green card or a yellow card, it's still the same amount of minutes. It's still 2 minutes for a yellow card, it's 1 minute for a green card, which is different. 4 minutes, no, it's 2 minutes non-releasable red
For red
card.
card.
Of course, because you're done for the game at that point as well. But for yellow cards, when we say it's a releasable, so if the other team scores, you're allowed to come on the field. Wait till we allow you to come onto the field, because just like we said, we may have a illegal stick at that point, so you can't come out of the box because technically the goal didn't score. So wait for those. If we have more than 4 yellow
Four.
cards, yeah,
Four.
4 or more, it's no longer releasable at that point.
So that's the same as high school.
Yeah,
Do you have to play man down?
no,
No.
you don't play man down at all. So the 4th and 5th, 6th, 7th card, all it means is that you're just not releasable anymore. So after 40, it's not releasable.
Or sportsman?
Right. And then the other big focus is, this isn't really a rule change, but a big focus is also red cards. We don't pull a lot of red cards if you played in the state of Georgia. We don't pull a lot of red cards. We are the assigners of Georgia, so we know how many red cards are pulled. There were probably maybe 6 or 7 altogether, not that many. In college, the main focus is protecting you as the player, your neck, your head, your kidneys, your back, any sort of dangerous contact like that. So if you cross-check and it comes up into the neck and it looks really ugly, they want us to start red carding those sort of dangerous plays. So just think about it, you're done for the game, you only played maybe 14 games all year, so you're gonna sit out that whole game and you're gonna sit out the next game. So just make sure, stay in control of yourself as a player, try not to be reactive because you don't wanna lose 2 games of the year over something silly, basically,
Marina.
all right? So, yeah, just protect, just try to remember, try not to get up into the neck, and we don't wanna see retaliation fouls. Let's see, what was the other one? It was anytime it was like a for sure goal situation.
Yeah.
There were a lot of them. There was the North Carolina Boston College game. It's not that one. The
It
state.
could be if a girl's going on a breakaway and you went out and took her out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there was so that's what happened in the Boston College North Carolina game.
It was bad, it was awful.
The girl cleared her out basically, cleared her right along the neckline, cross-checked her right along the neck. They automatically pulled her a red card, and I believe she was a senior. So not only did she have to sit out, they won the conference finals. She had to sit out the first round of the NCAA tournament because of something like that. There was only 27. There was probably like a minute 20 left in the game too. That's what made it even worse.
That also
It was
affects
real bad.
All-American status.
Exactly. So it's a big repercussion. So just remember, always try to remain in control of your emotions. I know as a coach, for sure.
What are you trying to say, Mike?
No, I'm talking as a coach. As a coach, that's what you want. I know that's what I teach. That's as a coach. That's what I'm trying to say. As a coach, that's the way I feel. Let's see. Any other questions? Please feel free to ask them. Do you have any more? Any good ones? Because I don't think we're missing anything else at that point.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what tripped me up when I first started college.
Mainly it was the checking through the sphere.
Yeah.
Well, defense is a lot of going the goal circle. So
You
you're
guys know
allowed to run through the goal circle as a defender. So if you're
Even
guarding,
off ball, Mike?
yeah. So if you're off ball, you're allowed to cut through the goal circle to guard the player that's running either behind the goal circle, in front of it, whatever. You're allowed to run through the goal circle. All right. The only time you have to get out is when the goalie has possession of the ball. You need to get out as
Or
fast as possible.
somebody's gonna be shooting too.
Right. Or somebody's shooting. Yes, you always want to get out. You're not allowed to sit. You're not allowed to sit inside the goal circle or park it, because once you do that, you're considered.
Even if the goalie's out?
I wouldn't recommend
It's a
ever being.
dangerous
I would,
player.
yeah,
I thought
I
you
would,
guys were
yeah,
carding.
yeah. We would card you if you did that. If the goalie was out and you decided to jump in, it could be a red card scenario. Yes.
Oh, never mind.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, don't ever do that. Automatic dangerous situation.
Well, guys.
I see
Guys will jump in if they notice
If the
something.
goalie ever fouls, the first thing out of my mouth as a ref is, nobody around here better jump in it or it's a red card. Because it creates a dangerous scenario, that's all it is. The girl launches it at 80 miles an hour and you have no protection, good luck. I don't like those odds. So,
Julian's like, I do.
I did it before a game. I jumped in with no gear when I played defense. So the goalie left and I jumped in. I said, okay.
don't do
They didn't
it.
shoot, so it was fine.
You got a little bit more of experienced officials when you come up, so you're not talking about people that are brand new officials, you're talking people that are doing brand new to college, or somebody like us who has been doing this for a couple of years. I've been doing it for now 4 or 5 years. Bill's been doing it for at least 10.
Yeah, next time.
So you'll have some experienced officials. Yes, ma'am.
What's the rule on the orientation of the stick when you're playing defense? Vertical, horizontal, extended arms?
So anytime we see, it doesn't matter about 9 and 3. So what we teach in high school, or what we talk about in high school, is the illegal contact. So 9 and 3, if you're horizontal with your stick, it's okay, as long as you make contact with your fist. So
Still no stick to body.
still no stick to body. So if I make contact with my fist and my stick's still horizontal, that's okay, as long as I'm not using my stick to guide that player out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm a coach, I was asking.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I covered it. Yeah, no, that's okay. Anytime you have your hands on your stick, or hands on the body, that's okay. Any kind of fist, you never ever want to have your stick on the body. Let's see.
Any other questions, Rose? I know y'all are tired. Any
Yeah,
other
it's been a long
questions?
day. It's a long day.
you see it in our face?
Definitely Maria's.
Just you.
You can see. Everybody just turn.
What video are you watching?
We can bring
I just pulled it up so they can have like some examples of what you're talking about.
Okay, well, go ahead and play it. I mean, it's fine.
I want to watch it.
It's only 6:30.
Only 6:30.
What school did you go to?
Creepy High School.
Oh, okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah, I went to Northgate. You kicked me out of games. Did you?
Oh,
I didn't get out of the game.
Yeah, I probably kicked myself out of the game. I didn't remember that name. Sam Puzo won the tour.
This was the
No,
first
Kylie
round.
O'Miller deserves
wasn't it?
that.
But you're
Hands
also,
down.
you're also looking at high level Division 1, so the refs
There's
let
not
that
as many
go.
fouls, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, would you say that wall dodge? We gotta do that.
Oh, so she already called a foul. So see, she called the timeout quickly, so you saw her big X real quick. She got a yellow card, so that's why she's coming off. So it's not a self-start scenario at this point. Yeah, they called a quick one. She got her pretty good too. And that's one of maybe the 3rd highest official in the country, Erica Leslie. She's one of the top officials easily.
You said that wasn't a whistle?
No, it's not a self-start. No, it was a whistle. It was a yellow card for a self-start. So no self-starts.
Yeah.
What defensive fouls reset the possession clock?
So anytime you have a card or offsides, resets the possession clock. The other time it'll reset the possession clock is if you take a shot from above goal line extended. So above goal line extended, it hits the pipe or the goalie. If it hits the net, it doesn't matter.
Good God, she just got caught, so she's in that corner. Oh my God. Does that scare you a little bit? Inside or offside?
Yeah, I don't know.
She might have been a leg break.
Offsides and cards would reset the possession clock.
I watched this game like 4 times over. I'm not even kidding.
Which game was this?
This was when
Was this
Boston
semifinal?
knocks out Maryland right before
That
they
was
go play James
Madison.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Boston College became the
Oh,
full seed
yeah.
against Carolina.
Wow.
That's right.
Kelly,
I forgot
can you
about
do that? Look how fast she can
with the work.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
So, like, you said she
Jeez.
slammed her like that? Like,
She's gonna hurt her spike.
You just try to.
Try not to aim at another player.
If you hit another player, it's a call. I actually carded somebody for hitting another player.
Hey, so go step in front of it, that's fine.
Yeah. She shot it and launched it behind her. Didn't realize the girl was behind her. It just hits the other player right in the chest, and I felt so bad because I had to call the goal off. You saw her face go like on video. It was kind of funny. She was like, "Crap." Isn't that Patty clear?
I feel like I would
No,
trip
it's
over my
Oh
own
damn!
stick.
I knew it was Patty's song.
This game made me mad. So
Where's her whistle? Good lord.
She was all the way out.
She was all the way out
All the
in the
way
center
out.
circle. Nice boy. See, so you see a big push, so there was a
She doesn't even
foul.
stop.
So there was a foul there, they blew it, but she was allowed to keep going, because she hesitated as soon as she basically got the foul call.
So like it can be a really quick hesitation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's
exactly.
a lot of times
There
they
goes
just
Chucky's
they
little
don't stop.
lunges, things we do.
Nah, I gotta be quicker than
It's gonna be us.
that.
Don't worry, 19.
Oh my gosh.
Exclamation point.
If we're gonna shout them out, we was like laughing,
know,
like
like,
daddy, we're gonna
crazy.
shout them out.
So you want to
always
for
say
them,
it.
you do like what they need to do beforehand.
You still have to wait for possession on
I mean,
the
we don't know
training
yet,
run
but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
really
Yes.
national.
That's why you're gonna see us do this stuff. So that's the same as high school.
And he knows nothing about
And
it.
then it's still in the shot, like a shot.
But if you
So you
know the
can't-
official
That was
like,
beautiful.
well,
That was
that's-
so good.
Without outside.
I don't,
I know.
there's
That's 3 seconds, yeah.
actual.
That's the same as high
I
school.
can tell you how long.
Do I have that?
Like, I can't
I
remember
want
what
you
it
to
was,
know
but I did
that.
stats against something. I
It's
can't remember what
time consuming in my
what
work.
was wrong.
You guys know it.
And then instead of 25 minutes half, she also played 30. And anytime there's a foul inside the credit, we'll stop the clock. So the game's just like
That's all the
that.
conference. The conference, you'll have 3 officials no matter, unless for some reason.
And like, there's gonna be 3 officials on the field instead of 2.
You're still doing a reverse like.
So you're gonna see that too.
I'll be here for that. That's that far. Bill and I will be here. November 2nd, you'll get good. That's their play day. I forgot you called it.
It's just one hour.
Katie does this same way. I pushed the ball earlier and she squatted by her legs instead of like going like this. Her legs and her feet were together and it was like this.
It's a long time. It's a long time. It's a long.
It takes less than 30 seconds to get to that.
90 seconds is a real long
It's a long
time.
Yes.
time.
It
It
is.
takes forever.
This is the hidden.
Oh, like the
ball.
whole did the ball trick. That was fine.
It doesn't work.
Time to get like a place.
Not enough.
That was a bad one.
Do it.
Bro, I've seen it work.
Not that one.
No, that one you
It's a
don't
long time.
have
You'll
to
see.
It was at a weird angle. Those people were.
I'm sure we'll start running.
We tried to do
Yeah.
something.
Look how they have no slides. Because your backs are the ball. Nobody hedged there. We worked on that this
Can we
morning,
see
yeah?
a replay?
That girl's gonna score 2 more times because they don't slide from up top.
Can you play that?
3rd time she goes, they're gonna slide.
It's gonna start again.
That girl,
back
that
Oh, there you go.
There's Sean.
girl, Dempsey Arsenal.
No slides. If you look up top,
She
all
was
their backs
She's
are all.
crazy good.
The defender like wasn't ready.
Shoo.
Because she's so quick.
Man,
No, the
she-
defender was like not ready.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
she
but
should
she's
have
like
been.
one of the top
Wait,
players.
she's
She's
never
never
ready
ready
for
for
that.
shooting.
I
And then like
guess.
the defender was so increased, like that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. We don't want you in there like if you're in shooting space, basically. Like if you're not guarding ball and you got your back to it, that's when we don't want you in the whole circle.
So even if they're right in front of you, you can still shoot.
Bro, I meant
all
to.
the
As
way.
long as you don't follow through into them.
Yeah, exactly.
So Sandy, did she use her long arms and which over?
Are you
Not because I got two foul my last game. I was just
Here goes the camera.
Jumps
Team
over.
delete. My
Sandy.
coach went to go see
Went to the
her,
girls'
went to go like watch the national
She
tournament
calls
and went to the gym and Taylor Cummings was running on the trail next to her. My coach started crying while she was running.
The things though.
When I met her, took a picture, I was like, oh.
No, both teams in this game were in man.
Oh.
I thought you said both these people were men. I was like, it's down for the never.
This is the hidden ball thing again. It
You can't do
doesn't
it that
work
many
this time.
times. It worked.
No, it never worked.
That's like a dumb one.
Can we make a cool one? Like,
I already
that
have
looked
one.
really, really okay.
She tried it
Wait,
once.
can we?
So no slide again.
Oh, I
that was
thought
shot.
yeah.
Sam Puzo. I'm so mad at Tyler.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Marin Core, Hallie over there, they were both deserving.
Oh, so they just double
That's
took.
true.
Oh, yard sale.
That's how you
So
get
she
team
white
contact and high val.
So see, so she picks it up.
It's a yard sale.
So she self-started from out of bounds actually. So she calls her back. So you saw she passed it from out of bounds. So she's gonna give her the ball back. She should.
Yeah.
She should give White the ball
Yeah, she
back
did.
because they
She
changed
was
it like
confused.
right before this game. They changed the rule on us.
Oh, okay.
So as officials, we're all over the place. But
Roll dodge.
so when you're guarding ball, so say you're closest to the out of bounds line, but you're not getting the ball, you're that new defender, you got to give them 2 meters of space to get on the field. So don't guard them like right at the line, because that's going to be the engagement foul again. So you got to give them that 2 meters to allow them to come running on the field first.
Love this.
This girl abuses this alley.
What's that, Stony Brook? Yeah.
No, this is Boston College,
Is
Maryland.
that shooting place?
The Seawolves. It's Stony Brook.
Oh yeah, it's at Stony Brook area. So here's where they're gonna clear the box in the 8 because it's an 8 meters free position. So you see how she's standing, the official's standing like right on the line with her hand up. So that's indicating that you gotta get out of the box. So we're at first and side, here, pause it real quick. So now we're at first and side, so that's what Bill and I were talking about a second ago. You see how nobody's inside what we write at hanging hash? So you have number 18. You're not allowed in that area if you're on the same side of the ball. You're allowed to be on the opposite side, but not the same side.
So if the white player was in that where the red player is on the left, you could stand right where that official is.
Yeah.
On that side. But since it's on that first hash, you can't stand in that area.
So she's gonna drop her hand because they're still waiting for somebody to move out. So she drops her hand, she backs up, and now she's gonna put her hand back up and blow the whistle.
Ready for that?
Sheesh.
I'll put my head right there.
I cried a little bit. There's tears in my eyes.
My head butted.
That's what a rail down would do.
That's what's her name,
Yeah.
Mara,
A what?
Mara
Rail
Wagner.
high.
Hey, let's watch it again. It's slow motion.
It wasn't slow at all. Sheesh.
When she said
What's up? We still lost the game. Oh.
They get up a lot. They abuse
Yeah, they abuse
this
them
Boston
first half.
goalie real bad, and then they got cocky, which is what they do.
Wait, what's the real?
Hashtag Turks on 3. What?
What's the real?
I never liked Maryland.
I'm always an UNC fan. Look at my keys. I don't have my keys. I don't have my keys every game.
I respect Maryland, but they do get cocky.
They are that team, what do you expect? I'm surprised Boston College jumped up as much as they did in 1 year.
I
AJ
thought
Madison, same thing.
with their coach though.
But in 1 year,
Yeah,
take
I mean,
down
that's
all
what
the top-
she got.
all the
Division
top.
One Coach of the Year.
I know.
Coach, that's what we're gonna choose.
Oh yeah.
Coach of the year.
Yeah.
So she can rake it.
No, that was a foul. That's what happened there.
And you can rake the ball if nobody else is in the
Around.
area
Nobody's
to
around.
play it.
If nobody's around to play it, you're fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if the ball's going out of bounds and nobody's around you, you could stop it, you could cover it, you can do anything. It's your ball.
She just scored again. I was gonna say.
That's like, it's like that in high school, but the officials don't know it. So.
Wait till you say the ball's still on field. Like if I went on.
I'm pretty sure that went out of bounds.
Yeah, correct.
Like for any player?
As long as nobody's around.
She turned
Look, no slides.
That barely.
So like if you're over there and I'm over here, I can do anything I want. Because you're too far away from me.
I remember one game, everyone got fouled.
Hey, if it's really
But even though we say that,
pipe, it's
doesn't
really
mean other
limited on
officials
how
would
they
call
go
it
far,
foul.
they can
It's
go
like,
pipe side, right?
What?
She hit pipe because the goalie is in position to sell the net. So she either had to pull across, but her defender was rolling her back, that's why I hit pipe. She only had about an inch.
Is it her plastic on her?
The plastic? Oh, same thing. That's why, she was hugging her pipe.
Oh my god! Oh
Like,
god! I was gonna say she scored on
No,
my
but
red
it
and have an issue.
She
You're
had
fine.
no angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you could have got that angle in there.
I thought she made it for a second. It was like, look at this
Speed.
speed. She her fast, her legs were moving so fast. I can't talk today.
We did not do sports already.
I don't know. I guess I'm
I
excited.
think it's still-
I feel like the day's been so long. Like I feel like I've been up for like 2 days.
That's how I
Oh, no,
feel
it's not
like
going down the field.
Staccato started talking and I was like,
That's
Yeah, it's painted.
Rose, do you have any more questions for them while they're here?
no.
Alright, Emily, can you hit the record button up there?
Has it been recording?
Yeah.
Oh, you said like. I was
Okay.
That's
Lord.
That's the thing.
Come on, coach.
Life's not fair, Joy.